So once again, like I said, good afternoon and welcome to our Mobile Punch webinar. As we do with all of our calls, I typically will mute everybody in the field. So there's a pretty pretty decent sized group on the call today. So if there's any questions, any concerns that come up during today's call, on your webinar control panel, the little panel that you see on the right-hand side of the screen might be minimized right now. You can maximize that if you need to. There is a little small section there called questions. If you go there and go ahead and type in a question, type in your question there, or you just make a little note to unmute you. And I'll be happy to unmute you and allow you to ask your questions. We typically mute everyone just to eliminate all the background noise and distractions that come up from a big conference call like this. So our session today, I'm going to be going through a document that I have that you'll see here on the screen on the Mobile Punch system. So what I want to do is kind of break this out into two parts. The first part is going to be kind of going over the general, what is Mobile Punch, what makes up Mobile Punch, how to use it from a screenshot perspective, and then I will go through and actually demo it off my phone here momentarily for you as well, so you can actually see kind of the best of both worlds and kind of determine if this is a solution for you. I will say that from a perspective of business and kind of how we look forward to doing this going forward in the future, Mobile Punch is the way to go. I will say that a lot of us on this phone call today use phone-in, and phone-in is kind of an antiquated call-in system. Obviously, it works, it does the job, but at the end of the day, the Mobile Punch gives you a lot more options. So I'm gonna keep your minds open to the thought of using Mobile Punch. Another thing I want to point out is everyone out in the field has been getting the new Verizon J3 phones. Verizon Samsung J3 phones. These phones actually already come with the app installed on them. So the app is ready to go. It's ready for you to use. The only thing that needs to be done is to get either yourself or your employees set up with access to their Mobile Punch. And I'll explain that a little bit later in our call, how to get that and whatnot. But generally, it's through a help desk ticket. But we'll go through that process towards the end of our call. So let's get started, and let's go through our little presentation here, and then we'll go through and, like I said, show you a little demo once we've gone through the steps and what makes up Mobile Punch. All right, so with Mobile Punch, the employees are essentially using a smartphone is what we're going to be using. It can also be used via a tablet, and it's basically going to be used to punch in and punch out, and if need be, use the app for lunch breaks. Now, the punches are actually one of the big benefits of this, as with phone-in and with our web punch services that we use for Blueforce. Those punches are immediately available in Blueforce, so you don't have to wait. There's no delay. I mean, literally, when the employee hits clock in, within a second or two, it's available for you in Blueforce, so you can actually validate that the employee is on site. Now, for those that have supervisors using this system, the supervisors can actually be set up to do a group punch. And only those that are set up as supervisors or leads or foremen or the different terminologies we have for that position will get the option to group punch. So what that basically means is a group punch, I'll show you that here in a little bit, but the group punch is actually going to provide the employee the ability to, the supervisor to clock in multiple employees at the same time. So if there's like a check-in point, the supervisor can be standing at that check-in point as the employees come in. He's just basically checking them off the list, and I'll show you a screenshot here in a little bit and even demo that for you a little later in our call. So one of the big things is you don't have to worry about this, but should you have to ever download it, I mean, it's there available for you on the left-hand side there. You'll see that it's available in the Google Play Store or via iTunes. So it's used for either one of those phones. As I mentioned, our company standard, our new company standard phone is that J3 phone, so it comes already installed with that. You should not have to ever download it, but I will say that the mobile apps are available via the Google Play or the iTunes Store. Now, every employee that is set up with this will be given a option to log in. And what I mean by set up by this is meaning actually really the phone user. Any employee who's going to be using Blueforce Web Punch and is a phone owner, a phone user, will be given their own employee login ID and password to access the Mobile Punch system. If an employee does not have a phone, does not mean that they can't use it. We can still have the supervisor, who would be the owner in this case, or would have the login, be able to group punch them in. So once again, the logins are going to be assigned to those, essentially the phone owners or people that will be logging in and out of that phone for web punch. I mean for mobile punch. So it'll be essentially 3 key pieces of information. The ISS will be used for the company name. Login ID would be your assigned, login ID, and the password is going to be whatever password has been assigned to you as well. Now, keep in mind, if you are a current Blueforce user and you actually log into Blueforce, and what I mean by Blueforce, that is the nice little system. Let me pull that up here so everyone knows what I'm talking about. Blueforce is essentially this little bad boy, kind of this background. Blueforce here is actually, if you have access to this already, so essentially if you are a editor, submitter, or approver role in Blueforce, you do already have access to the mobile punch. So there's no additional setup needed to get you going on mobile punch today. Only those that have never used it, you've never used Blueforce, or those frontline employees who need need access to the system will need to be set up. So essentially the screens are very similar to this, what you see here. It's a very simplistic system, very easy to use. When you once you log in, the employee is going to be prompted with actually going to be 4 options on the left-hand column there. You'll see there is clock in, clock out, start and end meal break, and there's even a help and even a contact support if need be. Should they ever need assistance in the field. Now, clock in and clock out are obviously the ones we'll probably be using the most. So on the beginning of a shift, or beginning of the workday, the employee's going to come in here. They're going to log in. They're going to press clock in, which is option 1, and then they're going to get the middle screen here, which is the option now to select a job. Now, one of the beautiful things about the mobile punch that's been, I guess, remarkably one of the best things I've seen in our systems here is that the mobile punch actually will know where exactly you are at. So the job that should come up here at the top of the list, if there's a drop-down available for you, meaning that you have access to go into multiple jobs or clock into multiple jobs, the employee's first choice is always going to be the job that is closest to where you're currently located. That being said, if I am at 123 Main Street right now, the job that is closest to 123 Main Street would be available first on this list for selection. So it's very hard to go wrong with picking a job if for some reason you don't know the job name or where you're actually at. It'll actually tell you the first job. And I'll go through more of that detail momentarily. But the key thing to keep in mind for those that are available that use the system along with J.D. Edwards, and some of you on the phone call, I do see some names here that you actually are part of the process of setting up jobs. You actually request job setups and job numbers in the system. When you do that on the J.D. Edwards side, it is very important that we put in the correct address. And that is why we do a kind of a checks and balances system. We have the OSG team, which essentially is my ePay team, that goes through and verifies the addresses, make sure that everything looks correct before it is actually created into a job record. And the reason it's important is because obviously it's going to filter down into Blueforce, and if we have the wrong address or no address at all, this functionality would not be beneficial to anybody. So once again, the job is always the closest job to your current location at that point in time. Task would be whatever task you are set to work. Now, by default, the first task that's on the list would be your default task. So typically, if you're a custodian, it's going to show custodian, but it will give you the option to use one of the other tasks that are available at that job site. And I'll show you that here in a live demo momentarily. So to finish the process of clocking in, all the employee does is tap the Save button at the bottom, and that'll give you that screen on the far right-hand side where it shows you that the employee, the name Jane Doe in this case, has clocked in on the date and time shown there, and then actually shows you in the highlight area at the bottom the GPS values if you want to know where exactly you were, and that's how it's coordinating where the phone is in conjunction with the actual job site. Now I'll take you into the Blueforce world here in a little bit, into Blueforce, and actually show you where the setup is actually taking place on the job record, so you can kind of put 2 and 2 together momentarily. The group punch options are a little different. If you look here on the left-hand side, there are options 1 through 5 there, and you'll see that number 5 now is the group punch option, and I'll show you a little bit more of that here momentarily. Now, options 3 and 4 here, you'll notice also is start meal break and end meal break. If the employee is required to punch in and punch out for lunch, meaning that we have no automatic lunch deductions, or they have no requirement, or they have a requirement from whether it be union or customer to actually clock out for lunch, then they would actually use the start meal break and end meal break options. And here, this works the same way. They would select either 3 or 4, typically 3 to go to lunch first, 4 to return from lunch, and then they would select the job and task just like they did before. Keep in mind, clocking out is not the same thing as going to lunch. And I would try to stress that in all of our different time collection pieces we have, but keep in mind, if you hit clock in and then the employee goes to start meal break, the time continues on. It doesn't break it up on the time card. And you see on the time card screen, the time card screen is broken up by in and out punch when you clock in and clock out. However, if you do the start meal break and end meal break, the system automatically will calculate that lunch, show actually a physical lunch break on the time card screen, and then show you the rest of the afternoon or the rest of the second part of the shift once the employee has ended the meal break. So it's important that if you're actually going to use or require the employees to use the meal break options, that they go through using options 3 and 4, and then at the end of the day, obviously come back to option 2 to clock out. And like I mentioned, clocked out, it shows you the same thing. So all the screens are very similar on the outcome. It basically tells you the status of where you're at. So you can't go wrong from the mobile punch. You clocked in, it tells you clocked in. When you clocked out, it tells you you've clocked out. That's a verification point for you if you ever need to want to make a note from a user standpoint, or tell your employees, that's the time you clocked out based on the system. Now, the big thing that always comes up is this group punch. Now, as I mentioned before, the group punch option is available for your supervisors, and we only give them to supervisors or those that are in charge of a crew or a team there at the site. So the group punch, like I mentioned, allows the supervisor to have the mobile device, and typically we use this service or group punch option because we only have one phone available for the job site. There's no reason to give 10 employees 10 phones when we can have one person who's in charge kind of run the show. So they'll take that phone, they'll go in there, they'll log into their own mobile device via that mobile punch, and then as they go in there, they'll be able to select the employees as they come in, as they arrive at the site, and then as they leave as well, or to transfer between jobs or tasks. So one of the functions in here that you can also do is transfer between a job and task throughout the day if need be. Now keep in mind, one of the things, and I'll say this again a little later, but the general process of clocking in and clocking out is the same for mobile punch as it is with anything else in our system. If you, in our Blueforce system, if you continue to punch in all day, for example, if I punched in at 8 a.m. today, then at 10 a.m. I had to go to another job number or job site, I would simply just punch in to that new job site. I'd never have to clock out. The system automatically knows when I punch in again, it's automatically going to move my time to the new job and so forth. So I can clock in, clock in, clock in, and clock in again, and at the end of the shift of the day, I would go in there and clock out. So just keep in mind, you have the ability, and that's kind of the same concept when you transfer from from one job to another within mobile punch. You're going from job to job, so you're just clocking in, and et cetera, et cetera. So the group punch option, like I said here, shows us number 5 on the listing. And once again, number 5 and any additional numbers will only be available for the supervisor. So 1 through 4 is for the regular employee. Number 5 would be someone who is a supervisor. And once you request a setup for a supervisor, for an employee, we would need to know if they are a supervisor role, so that way we could actually assign them correctly. Now the group punch works the same way. You pick the job, you pick the task for the group. The only thing different this time, instead of having a save button there, you have a get employee list button. And that button now gives you the option on the right-hand side there, you'll see on the far left right-hand screen, where you can actually see all the lists of the employees as they come in. Now the way this works is you would actually go and say, oh look, James Bond is working for me today, and I need to go ahead and he's arrived at the site. I need to clock him in. All the supervisor will do is go to and tap that little clock in button, and it will actually mark him as clocked in. Now, the beautiful part of the system, and I think it's a cool thing to see from a perspective of a supervisor on the site, the system will always tell you right underneath the employee's name what their last action was. So we also know that they last clocked in at a certain time. So once they've clocked in, it automatically registers it. But before they clock in, if you notice that second one for James Bond, and let me erase my drawings here, this second one tells you that he last clocked out yesterday. So it's telling you right now that he's not on the clock right now. He's letting you know that the last motion he's done or the last action he's done in our system is a clock out. So it kind of gives you an update, kind of an updated view of what's going on. And you always know the status of all your employees and what they're doing. All right. So moving forward, obviously, a couple of the options that are available are going to be the help and also contact ePay. The help actually gives you internet links that are shown there in the middle of the screen, in the middle picture. The employee, whoever is using the mobile, I guess you say the mobile punch user, can quickly access help. Some of the screenshots that I showed you here are available part of these links, but just quick help in case they forget how to clock in, clock out, or access the group punch options. And lastly, support. If they have to contact ePay for whatever reason, the support number is available there. Now, this is the ePay 24-hour support line that goes straight to our ePay support line. This is not the IT ePay team hotline or the help desk by no means. This is straight to the support at ePay. So typically when things happen, we have the support line there because obviously it's 24/7 and it's also available after hours. But more importantly, it gives the employee an opportunity to contact and get support in the middle of the night if need be. Now the big question comes out, we have parts of the country where, signal's not all that great with some of our phone providers. So if there's a part of the country where you're using this phone and there's no GPS signal at the time the employee or yourself are trying to log in, that's not a problem at all. Believe it or not, the system is actually going to capture the punch for you. Now the way this works is if you are having issues or difficulty communicating through one of your mobile providers, what's going to happen is the location it's going to be actually tracked still. It's going to be recorded as a punch in the system after 3 failed attempts. And the way this works, the system will try to connect the first time, and we hit save. If it doesn't, it'll take it back to that screen and hit save again. If it still doesn't want to connect, it'll do it one more time. And if for some reason it still doesn't want to do it, then the system's going to say, I give up, and it's going to go ahead and record that punch for you on your phone. Now the way it works is when you get back to an area where you have signal, those punches will then get pushed over to Blueforce at that particular time. But the key thing here is you're punched in, it's recorded the time for you, but you might need what's called an approval by a supervisor or manager in the time cards module to get your time basically accounted for. So the approval, as you know, occurs right now in other methods whenever there's an issue, like for example, the time clock. Whenever someone has a fingerprint issue, it says needs approval. Or when someone calls in from on the phone-in system from a phone number that's not authorized, it also comes back as needs approval. This is just to alert the supervisor that there was an issue with the punch. Just review it, make sure it's still valid, make sure the employee was actually trying to clock in. And if it's approved, no big deal, just go in the time cards module and hit approve. And I'll mention that again here momentarily when I show you a live demo. But nevertheless, if you do get an approval, it's just basically saying you had an issue with the upload, but the system did transfer your time, it did record your time. It's just to let the supervisor know that, we might have to look at other alternatives maybe, or find out, what's going on with the signal. I will tell you that some of our buildings, unfortunately, where we are always given the luxury offices down in the basement, some of those offices don't get signal. Or we may be in the middle of nowhere out in the country somewhere and not have signal there as well. So this is a known issue. And once again, after you try to clock in 3 times and the signal's not strong enough, the system is still going to, or let's say the app is still going to capture that punch. And as soon as you get back into a place where there is service, your punches will then transfer to Blueforce automatically. Okay, so just so you know, whenever you do try to submit or hit save, or you try to use Mobile Punch and there is no internet or no services available, you will get a similar message at the top of your mobile app that says you are currently in offline mode. That way you know that, I'm going to have some problems probably clocking in. It's going to ask me to do it 3 times. Don't worry, not really a big deal, not a major concern. It's just that know that the system will automatically transfer those punches to you once all is well with your service. So one of the things I will talk about real quick, and that's kind of the quick overview of how to use the system. It's very simple. I mean, it would take an employee longer to probably log in than it is to actually hit a couple buttons to actually record their punch. It's really a quick process. We've timed it as fast as 5 seconds to as much as 10 seconds. It's a pretty quick process. And even faster if you're group punching, because a supervisor can just sit there and just check away at employees all at the very beginning of the shift and knock out 20 employees in just a matter of seconds. So very good way of punching in and punching out. Now to set this up, the first criteria that we look at is the location. As I mentioned, it's important the job address is correct. So what I'm going to do real fast is I'm going to go into Blueforce and show you kind of a quick example of how we have things set up in the system. So let me go to a job real fast. I have some test jobs in here, and I'm going to use my main office as an example. And my main office here, notice, has no address information. This is not how you want something set up. If it comes in like this over on the J.D. Edwards side, obviously it's going to be a bad thing and would be caught. The only thing one of the things that is required of all of our job records is the zip code. So that's why kind of when I set this up, I set up purposely this way so you could actually see that it didn't have an address and what the effect's going to be on it a little bit later. Same thing with my other jobs here. I have it set up just kind of generically with no addresses. So this is kind of the way of not doing it correctly. Now what I will do is actually I'm going to back out of here real quick. And I'm going to go back into my jobs, and this time I'm going to pick, for those that are on the phone from Houston possibly, I'm going to use some of your jobs as examples just so you can see what's going to happen. I'm just going to pick this particular job. It's 2925 Briar Park, and it's trying to catch up here, so give it a second. And as it catches up, one of the things I'm going to go to here momentarily so you can see is that we have a couple different options here. Actually, hang on. Oh, well, it jumped to another job from back. But anyways, this job is 5 Post Oak Park, and you'll notice there the address is filled in, and it's still trying to catch up, so just give it a second. So there goes 5 Post Oak Park, and it gives you the option of the address and city, state, zip. So the system knows that this is coming from J.D. Edwards. This is where the job resides. At the bottom of the screen, you have a tab called Mobile Configuration. Now that Mobile Configuration tab, and I apologize, the screen is actually pretty slow today. And I'm giving it a second here, and if not, I'm going to refresh my screen and log back in. All right, so it's not going to cooperate. See, so let me log into another session real fast. I apologize for this. All right, so I'm logging in on my other screen here, and I'll share it with you as well. All right, so I've logged in on my other screen here. So here we go, 5 Post Oak Park, the same job. Only thing different now is when I go to that Mobile Configuration tab down at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to scroll up just a tad. You'll notice that it has a option for geo coordinates. Now these are settings that you can adjust or touch. We have it locked out purposely because we want this coordinates to come off of the address that comes from J.D. Edwards. So one of the things you can do is we can actually come in here and view map at any point to actually see where those coordinates are actually residing. So one of the things that's cool about this is it actually tells you where exactly that job site is. And you can zoom in on the map. It's using Google Maps to actually provide this information for you. You can zoom out and use all the functionalities of Google Maps between satellite and regular generic map options. But you have that option available for you based, like I said, all the address. Now, one of the things underneath that is geofencing and punch blocking. Now, that setting is there because it wants us to set an acceptable punch range. What that basically means is if someone were to go to that job site and punch in, how far away from the center of that job address do we want the system to basically accept their punch for? So if they are, by default, we have it set up as 0.2 miles, which is basically for roughly two good city blocks away. So within that radius, someone can go to that site and actually punch in and basically be said to have been on site. Now, the one thing here is we can actually change this. We can actually lower it to 0.1, and we can extend it to a 2-mile radius. Now, let me warn you here on going either way. If you go too small of a range, the system will look for a very small, minute area. And I'll give you an example. We have a big building out in Phoenix, Arizona, for those that are joining us from Phoenix, that we have employees park down the street a little bit. And actually, we have our supply area where we actually pick up supplies down the street, or down in a building down the street, or really what campus is one side of the campus. Well, if they clock in there, but the street address is on the opposite side of the campus, we might not be able to capture their punch accurately, meaning the system's going to say they're out of range, meaning that they'll accept their punch, but it's going to be in a punch that's going to need approval later in time cards. So 0.2 seems to be the one that works the best. We always leave it at 0.2. Now, 2-mile radius really gives you a 4-mile diameter, so that really makes it large and gives the possibility that the employee can be down the street at the convenience store or at another job site punching in accidentally to this job. So 0.2 is kind of where we go with the acceptable punch range. So this is on the mobile configuration tab, like I mentioned. It's locked out, so because we don't want these settings changed right now, but you have the ability to do that. The mobile punch obviously also has an option that you can capture the employee's picture when they punch in and punch out. Just like those that use the time clocks currently on this phone call, you have the ability to tell the system, hey, I want to turn this on. You just let us know. We can activate this for you, but what we'll do is if you say yes here, the next time the employee punches in for this particular job, the system is going to ask them to pose for a picture, and a little selfie, and the system will snapshot a picture for them off that phone. So that is an option that's available. That's all for just further verification should you ever need additional verification. Now, I can guarantee that if mobile punch, by punching in and punching out on the mobile punch option, it's very hard to deny where you were at because the GPS coordinates are actually pulling in and mapping you to a certain location on the spot. The cool thing also with this, and I'll show you here momentarily, is the time card screen. The time card screen is actually noting each one of these punches and letting you know where you are at. So I'm going to show you that here a little bit on the time card view. All right, so let me back out of here real quick. Let me close that. And let's go back over here. So like I mentioned there, the mobile configuration tab is available there. And this is what I was actually going to point out here. Now, just like a while ago when I showed you the view map option so you could actually see where the location was as far as the address was concerned, a similar option here is available when the employee punches in and you go to the time card. So on the time card screen, you'll see the same view, but two things will be added: where the in punch was and where the out punch was. The building there always designates where the building is located. The in and out punch will be designated with a letter A and a letter B, and I'll show you that here shortly live. But it's pretty cool functionality because it gives now the employee can't hide. Now I'm not saying we're trying to really keep an eye or pinpoint exactly their whereabouts, but you quickly do know if they are within the radius, and especially if they are actually at the job site when they actually punch in and punch out. So this document that it's a user guide that we put together a while back, and we used some old screenshots. Same screenshots are still available for us. Same use of the system. I will share this Punch user guide with all the users that are on the phone call today, and I'll just after the call I'll email out to everybody. But this is kind of just a quick user guide overview of the system. So now let's do the fun part of the system, the fun part of our call. Let me do the actual demo. And the demo here is actually going to be off my phone, so I'm just setting it up real fast and getting it activated. And I'm using a screen capture utility that's going to basically show you everything that's on my phone right now. All right, so let me move it over here. So everyone should have a glance of my phone itself, the phone screen. And I have the Blueforce mobile app on it, so I'm going to open that up. And I've just now opened it up. So when I open up the Blueforce mobile app, you'll see that it has the company ID, ISS, as your company, and that's everyone straight across the board on this phone call. Login ID is going to be whatever has been assigned to you. Now, for my example, my test today, I have webinars as my user ID, and then my password, whatever it may be. It is case sensitive, so you have to type that in exactly. Login is not a case sensitive, but the password is. Now, for those users that are out there in the field, that I would suggest that the users in the field always use that Remember Me option that's in the middle of the screen there, because remembering your login and password there would be a lot easier for them just to get the phone, come over here, and hit login every time instead of having to remember, what their login was and all that good stuff. So, just tap login here. A little please wait window will appear, and then now you are in the app. Now, since I'm set up as supervisor, I do have the options for group punch. So this is how a supervisor would notice. Like I mentioned, options 1, 2, 3, and 4 are only available for the general employee. So group punch is only for supervisors. So here I go. If I want to punch in, I hit press 1 for punch in. I'm going to go off the list here and pick my job. Now, based on my addresses here, the closest to my location currently is that my main office job, so the system is always going to put that on top. If I was across town, the system would reorder these jobs. Now, as a quick refresher, these jobs that are available for me to select from as an employee, it's going to be based on the jobs that are available on the employee's working job record in Blueforce. So before I go any further, I want to go and just make sure we are all on the same page with that. And let me move this off the screen real quick. All right. So once again, if you are an employee, and actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change my job selection. I'm going to pull up my test job so we can actually demo it all the way through. Not there. And I just have a select group of records to work with. All right, so if I go in here and look at employees, I have an employee here called Joe Schmo. And Joe Schmo, if I look at his employee record, I have a tab down at the bottom called Working Job. Now, that tab at the bottom of the screen lists all the assigned jobs on the right-hand side that this employee can punch in and out of. Now, it's important that you look here because these 4 jobs are the only 4 jobs that I can actually punch in and punch out of as the user Joe Schmo, or the employee Joe Schmo. So just like you saw a little while ago, I'm logging in as webinars. Okay, so what I'm going to actually do is show you webinars and show you that I only have the 3 jobs under webinars that I can actually clock in and out of. So let me go back over here real fast to employees. Let me go over here and look at my employee called webinars, and I'm using this one today. So if I go in here, I go over here to my working job. There's 3 jobs down at the bottom right there. If you notice, they're under the working job section under assigned jobs. These are the only 3 jobs that I will be able to see as a employee on this particular job. Okay, so just keep in mind, working jobs controls not only what jobs an employee can work at, but more importantly, what jobs the employee can see when they try to punch in and punch out. All right, so I'm bringing back my screen. All right, so these are the 3 jobs that are on my screen. So let me back up one step here. So once again, I came in, I picked my job, and once again, I can pick the closest job to me, or if I'm clocking in another job for some reason, I could do that. But like I said, this is a kind of a can't go wrong type of system. If the first job on the list is the job that's closest to you at that current point in time. Next, tasks. The first task on the list is kind of my default, but I can pick any task on the list. So if I'm a custodian, that's my default task. That'll be at the very top of the list. Or if I'm working at a different position, maybe I'm a carpet tech or a window cleaner today, I can actually pick that off the list as well. Work order is an option that's available. It wasn't in the screenshots because one of the things that's available is if this job has a work order, you will be prompted with the option to pick a work order. Now, one of the things that we use, as you know, around the country is that work orders are vital in determining our one-time job type of work, or extras, or tag work, all the different terms that are given to that. So we need to make sure that our labor is coded correctly to these extra jobs. One of the big things about the work orders is work orders are, if you don't code things correctly, code labor to a work order as you should, our budgets, our labor, our actual, all that good stuff are not quite correct because they're not looking at this one-time job. This is stuff that's not really budgeted. So it's kind of extra gravy, extra revenue half the time. So it's always good to have a work order applied to the job if need be. So once again, a work order is an option there. If you don't need a work order for this particular scenario and there happens to be a work order available for this job, then just skip it. You can easily just leave that blank if you don't want to use one of these. You can always leave that work order blank. Comments is there if you want to put a comment. It doesn't do much. It gives you a little way if you want to put a little note or a little comment from an employee side as far as what the punch is for, more some detail with that. Otherwise, I'd say skip it. Typically, job and task are really the 2 fields that need to be filled in at a minimum on every one of these punches. Lastly, you're going to come down and click on Save. And when you click on Save, the system's going to tell you that you are now clocked in. The day and time is noted there in the current time zone. So right now, I'm in the central time zone. It's 3:39 here, so it's clocked me in at 15:39 p.m. And that's my coordinate values. I hit OK, and I have the option now to do something else, another option, another choice there, 1 through 5, or at the very bottom right, I have the option now to log out. So with that, if I'm ready to log out, obviously I can log out and go along my way and go to work and do my window cleaning, my carpet cleaning, whatever I got to do, my engineer work, whatever position task it is for me. And then when I'm done, I can come back in, just tap log in here again, and I'm back to business where I can now do my next selection, whether it be clock out, start meal break, group punch, whatever it may be. Now, the thing about the system is if you forget, I clock in, I'll leave the screen open, it's going to time out. It's not going to leave you logged in there all day. It's going to actually time out and, let you, make you come back in and sign in again when you come back to the app. Now, one reason it does that is obviously a security feature, but more so, look at that clock that's running down at the bottom. The clock, if it ran all day like that, and the GPS geofencing was out there trying to find a location all day on this app, it would drain your battery. So that's one of the reasons why it won't stay on all day. It'll actually log itself off, and you can actually go in and log back in later when needed. So once again, that's really the simplicity of the clocking in and clocking in part. These options are available. Now that I've clocked in, I come back in now and will be option to now clock out. Same. I'm clocking out of my first job there and hit save, and it'll clock me out. Now, one other thing I will point out is your GPS coordinates are being pulled in from whether you're on a cell phone, on a network, whatever it may be, however you're accessing the system at that point is what's pulling that network, those GPS coordinates. Now, one thing I will show you before we move on, let me get off of the screen. And I'm going to show you the time card view. The time card view, as you would know, is I'm going to show time cards for all the jobs that are out there right now. And actually what I'm going to do is let me redo my job selection here and get rid of that Houston job that was on the list. And when I go to time cards now, I'm going to show all my time cards for this given day, which is January the 4th through January the 5th. And this is kind of the default, when I log in today, this is the default dates that pop in there. And I'm going to show you all punches. And you'll see down here in the screen, these are the punches that I've been recording today via the system. Notice that, and actually let me back out of here again. All right, so one of the things I will tell you is that these punches you see are different colors. And the punches there on the far right-hand side designate what type of device was used to punch in, punch out, etc. So as some of you may be familiar with, if you ever see a green background on any of your punches, that's telling you that is your mobile punch, your phone-in punch. That basically means you've used a phone system where you've dialed in that toll-free number and the employee has entered their employee ID via the dial tones and recorded their in or out punch. So that's the green one. The out punches in that particular line is showing kind of like beige, kind of light orange color. That is telling you that you've actually recorded that punch via a mobile device. So kind of you'll see here as you go through the day, the employee could easily, if they wanted to, punch in on one device and punch out on a different type of device. So you can mix and match the different types of time collection pieces that we have. So if you want to use phone in to clock in and mobile to clock out, you could do that, just like I show you here. Or if an employee starts out the day at one job site and then is forced to punch in again at a different job site with a different type of time collection device, that's possible as well. So we try to be, this is going to be a flexible system for you, so by all means, you have kind of some flexibility as to what you want to do there. But the key thing here to keep in mind is those orange punches are dictating that you've actually worked or clocked in at those different jobs. So from a time card perspective, you do see that you have the job listed here. So like this one is corporate campus job. I punched in at 2:49 and I punched out at 15:39. So keep in mind those are the actual raw punches in the time card screen. Now, whenever there is a mobile punch involved, one thing you will see that's different from any other type of time collection device is that under View Details on the far left-hand side, you have an option now called View Map that you can actually go over there and actually view the punches of that employee. So you will notice that it's going to be on any time you have any punch that involves a mobile punch. So for example, if I wanted to see where I clocked in at 2:49 today, I could click on View Map. And it'll show me here, it'll show you where the punches were, where punch A was denoted with an A, and where punch B was denoted with a B. So I can zoom in, and you can see that, punch A wasn't there. What was I when I punched in? Well, obviously punch A was outside the radius or not within this area, but nevertheless, you see punch B right there. So for those that are familiar with our office area, it's pretty darn close. It's not exactly correct because where the building is the building to the right is where we're at on the far end of it. So it's a few feet off, but nevertheless, you can actually see it's telling you that you're within radius, and that's where the punch was actually captured. So you have an idea, kind of more or less, that the employee was within the radius. They were on site, and they did punch in and punch out successfully. So the view map is one of the most powerful pieces of this that a supervisor can use to validate time. I'll just show you real quick before we wrap this up. I'm going to show you that Houston job one more time, and I'll show you some punches for Houston, just so you can see where things are a little different. So like some of these punches that are out there right now for the Houston jobs I'm pulling up, notice a lot of these are in green. So if I go over here and I try to go to that View Details, little black arrow, I don't have the option to View Map there. Just to show you that this is just available for mobile punch and mobile punch only. So another benefit for those that want to really keep a close tab, make sure the employees are actually clocking in, clocking out the job site. that's another validation point that we use. So the question becomes is, how do I get set up now? What do we do to get mobile users, mobile punch users set up? Well, the easiest and by far the easiest way to do this is submit a help desk ticket. Our ePay team here, there's the 4 of us here in our team that will actually go through these help desk tickets, and we actually will set up these users. So for everyone on the phone call, what we need is essentially the employee's name, employee ID, and essentially just tell us what do they, are they just a general employee, or they are a supervisor, a lead, or something of that nature, so we can set up them with the proper access. Now keep in mind, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, if you are already a Blueforce user, if you actually are or know of an employee that logs into Blueforce day to day, they're already set up for mobile punch. There's nothing that has to be done other than logging in and recording their time. Now, if it's a new employee that has not used Blueforce before, or just someone who's just got a phone, then we probably need to go ahead and set them up. So once again, employee ID, employee name, and then just what they are. If they are just a frontline employee, a field employee, or are they a supervisor, so we can actually set them up correctly. Now, the one other piece that we would like to have, if it's possible, is an email address for that particular user. And the reason we need that is because Blueforce will send their credentials to them directly. Now, if they don't have an email address, not a problem. What we will do is we will set up an email on their record as your email address, or another person's address, maybe their supervisor. That way they have a contact point should there be any issues of needing credentials sent back out to them. The way this works is if someone ever forgets their login ID or password and needs to call Blueforce directly, Blueforce will actually ask them for some information, and will send that password information to an email address. And that's the main reason why we have that on file or have it on record for them. But other than that, that's really all the information we need to get this process started. And once again, if you have any questions further about what you've seen today, or any questions further about the setup process, you're more than welcome to contact me. My name is Christian, obviously. You can also contact Tiandra, Beth, or Jade. One of us 4 can actually go through and assist you with this a little bit further. Now, I will also say the best way to always request for assistance is via IT help desk ticket. So once again, make a request for the users' logins and passwords via the help desk. Now, that is all I have for you today. I hope I've given you a quick overview of this new tool that we have at our disposal. As I mentioned, this is the future of ePay, and kind of where we want to go with our phone system and our usage of our employees clocking in and clocking out. So by all means, please do reach out to us if there's any questions, concerns, or anything else I can do to further assist you with setting up your mobile punch users. With that, thank you for joining us today. I think I've answered everybody's questions that are out there, and as I said, if there's anything we can do for you further, let us know. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.